Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? I am back, and with the first face cam video, and I don't know how long. I figured now that I'm back, I might as well get my webcam situation figured out. So we're here, and I haven't uploaded for about a week. Now, some of you guys might be wondering why that is. Well, if you didn't see my community post from about a week ago, I was on vacation with my family in Italy for the better part of 2 weeks. So I had some pre-recorded content to upload for you guys while I was in Italy, but I didn't make enough videos to upload the entire 2-week duration. So last week I didn't upload at all, and that was the first time in doing content for Dragon Ball Super in 5 years that I missed an entire week of uploads. Like, I've missed a day here and there if I wasn't feeling good or something was going on, whatever, but I've never missed like more than like a 2-day span of uploading in 5 years. So taking that break from uploading from Dragon Ball and just from whatever else is going on in my life did feel pretty good, to be honest. I had a great vacation, saw family members that I've never met before, some members I haven't seen in like 15 plus years, had incredible food, saw incredible things. It was just a great time overall. And yeah, I didn't upload for an entire week. That's honestly kind of wild for me to think about, because I've just been very good about uploading over these past 5 years, funnily enough. But yeah, we're back. I just want to take this time in this video to talk a little bit about the rest of the summer upload schedule, because what I did for the first week I was in Italy was just stick to 3 uploads per week, and I think I'm going to stick with that schedule for the rest of the summer, because I have a lot of trips and traveling this summer between Gen Con, which is pretty much every summer. I've got a wedding later this week that I'll be attending in Texas. So I'll be traveling for that, and I'm going to Japan in August for a good 2-week vacation once again, not with family this time with friends. So I do have a pretty packed summer. For that reason, I'm going to be uploading 3 days a week, just because I think it's a more manageable schedule for me. And also, I've got a lot more stuff ramping up with the comic book. For any of you guys that have been following me in that regard, I appreciate it as always with that endeavor. I've been having a ton of fun just getting closer to the finish line with that project. If you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, go to the link in the description. You guys can see what my indie comic book's all about. But yeah, a lot of stuff with that's ramping up. I'm actually going to be at Gen Con advertising the book in the artist alley. So if you guys are interested and want to see some of the first content for the book in printed paper, I can't wait to have the physical book in my hands. So you don't even know. But yeah, that's happening with that. And the days that I'm not uploading, I'm going to try my best to also keep you guys occupied with Patreon content as well. So this way it's not only like 3 pieces of content a week, and I'm still, giving Patreon exclusive subscribers, what they're paying for and what they're supporting me for. So I'm going to try to basically do that. Basically do the 3 uploads a week, do the Patreon content as much as I can, at least 1 to 2 articles a week, and keep it going like that. But yeah, I've got so much stuff going on, guys, between, again, the comic book stuff, YouTube stuff, traveling a ton, and looking for whatever the next step in my life is. So I just want to say I appreciate all you guys that have been along the long journey with me. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys. I just wanted to keep you updated with what's going on with me and what's going on with the channel. So with that being said, we're here to do an actual Dragon Ball Super video. We're gonna get into that. So because I've been gone for 2 weeks, I've been unplugged from the meta. Obviously, before I left, Green Gohan was abundant and just dominating every single tournament, whether it was winning most of them or just finishing like an insane amount of the top cut slots in their respective tournaments. So what I want to do in today's video is basically catch up on what I've missed. I want to go over the tournament data. I'm probably not counting what has gone on this past weekend, if anything has gone on, to be honest. Like, I'm, again, totally out of the loop. I just got back on Saturday night, and then Sunday was basically my day to just like, get back into the swing of like workflow and all that stuff at home. And my brother's birthday was on Sunday, so was kind of busy spending time with him and doing stuff with my family. So yeah, today's Monday. Today's the first day I'm really getting plugged back into things. If there were tournaments over this past weekend, let me know, and I'll probably do a separate video this week talking about just those tournaments. But what I want to do in this video is go over the tournaments that are basically from whatever I left off covering before I left for vacation to before this weekend, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go now, pull up some information, pull up some data, and we'll just talk about it. Alright guys, I'm here on Eggman's website to go over the events that I haven't gone over yet. Again, excluding anything that happened just this past weekend. And it looks like since I've been gone, there have been 3 regionals. So we have the Top Cut Tennessee regional, we have the Madison, Wisconsin regional, and we have a regional in France. So let's go over these 3 tournaments, basically see what I've missed so I can get myself caught up, and we can talk a little bit about where things might go. So we know that in the first week or two of set 21 format, Green Gohan was an absolutely dominant force, and just from a quick glance at these pie charts, man, that doesn't really seem to change. As far as first place goes, Gohan wins 2 out of 3 of these regionals. Again, it's insane data for this leader to be putting up almost a month into this format. It's pretty insane. Now let's take a look at just some of the like details of these events. So this is a BO1. This is the Top Cut Tennessee regional, by the way. Best of 1 Swiss in the top 16, best of 3 Top Cut. So whenever we're looking at a regional, like, you know, when we have the online regionals, it is nice they have a lot of players because it's, you know, played from the convenience of your own home. However, it's only best of 1 Swiss where like final standings are determined just by Swiss. And when you have the IRL regionals, you have the more kind of played through system where it's best of 1 pre-side and Swiss, and you play out the full best of 3 top cuts. So you get like slightly truer results. Now this doesn't have listed here the number of players, but I'm pretty sure it was at least over 100 players, if not almost capped for this event from just what I heard through the grapevine. Now going quickly to the Madison event, let's see the details here. 120 players, not bad. BU1 Swiss in the top 8 best 3 cut. Once again, you've got your more tried and true kind of playoffs taking place, so some slightly truer results. And the France regional, 95 players, best of 1 into a top 8 cut once again. So we do have pretty good data to go off here from the looks of these 3 tournaments. So from this point on, like considering this is like a month into the format, it's pretty safe to say that a meta has formed, right? And that meta heavily revolves around green SS2 Gohan. Now, one term you'll hear a lot when people are talking about a meta is like what warps a meta, or what a meta forms around or warps around. And basically what that means is there's a force in the format where every other deck has to have a plan to deal with that deck, and you could have some decks that become unplayable due to something warping a format, or you can have certain decks that just become good due to a certain deck warping a format. So for example, if Green Gohan is warping or forming the format, which I think it's super safe to say it is at this point, you have decks that might be unplayable. So any deck that's weak to hand control, any deck that's particularly weak to their boss monster, Goku, Gohan, Father, Son, Solidarity, like any deck that can't deal with that card effectively is just gonna have a really bad time when this deck is this popular in this meta. On the reverse though, any deck that has a good matchup into Gohan that maybe wasn't playable or wasn't great before is now a whole lot better because it beats the supposed best deck in the format. So that's something you can think about from like a meta analysis perspective, and you know, while you guys are getting ready for your upcoming tournaments. Now I'm going to take a quick look at the wheels here and just see if anything else really sticks out as like a common top placer, right? So like things I'm looking out for, like here we have Android 21. I would expect 21 to do very, very well across most of these tournaments. Pan, I do remember from the first 2 weeks of the set 21 format doing quite well, probably the best representative as far as red is concerned. Frieza Swap we have seen here and there. Blue Gohan, we've also seen that before. Green Cooler I think is a somewhat new addition to this particular format, although it's topped here and there for sure in previous formats. Green Gogeta, also no stranger. It's got like 3 or 4 tops between last format and this format. SSG Trunks, a pretty solid new contender with great support out of set 21. And then Trunks Gita, just always a solid yellow deck that I'm actually definitely interested to know more about this matchup. Again, I've been unplugged from DBS for like 2 weeks straight, so I would be very curious to know how this matchup goes, because what's interesting about this matchup in particular is that Green Gohan's boss monster, again Goku, Gohan, Father, Son, Solidarity, gains barrier the turn it's played, which is super relevant against Trunks Gita because their 3-drop Trunks blocker, Future on the Line, can't tap it when it's played because it has barrier and then won't be able to be chosen for the effect. So that's a really interesting dynamic there, and that thing can swing and just pop that Trunks blocker absolutely no problem. Now taking a look here, let's see if we have any common placers in common between those 2 tournaments. So going into the Madison regional, we do see once again SSG Trunks and 21, followed by Majin Vegeta, which was very, very popular last format, although I can definitely see Majin Vegeta struggling in this particular meta because you're so reliant on your 4-drop Goku Destined Battle surviving to generate all that extra draw power but green is just the color of spot removal. Like, there is nothing, especially without barrier, that's gonna stick against a green deck for more than one turn unless the green player like absolutely bricks or something. So I can definitely see Majin Vegeta doing a lot worse for that reason alone. So yeah, it's interesting to see that it's definitely not as popular as it was last format. Now, the two other contenders here, we have a Shroom and Salsa, which I think we'll definitely take a look at this list by the end of this video, just because it's such a cool leader that we haven't seen in quite some time. Typically, this is like a drop area interruption deck, but it also draws a lot because it draws, I believe, when you combo, as long as your opponent has no drop area. And then we do have a fair amount of Golden Frieza, actually rivaling the amount of Gohan in this top cut. Golden Frieza, I mean, it was a deck that caught a lot of popularity last format. I don't really see too much of a reason why it wouldn't be as popular this format. So seeing that this representation, at least in my head, makes sense. Now let's take a look at the France regional and see if we have any common denominators here. We have Green Gohan taking an extremely overwhelming majority of this top cut, followed by 21, which again, common between all three of these tournaments here. We do have the Majin Vegeta again, we do have the Golden again, and now we have one Soul Striker and one Android 16 outlier. So from these three tournaments and my recollection of the first 2 weeks of the set 21 format, I mean, again, obviously Gohan is warping the format. Your deck has to be able to do something against this particular strategy, otherwise you're probably just not doing well in this format. Then of course there's 21, which is definitely not as popular, and I definitely need to learn more about like this particular format now that, again, I am back into the swing of things with DBS, getting ready for Gen Con. This matchup seems interesting because traditionally as a blue deck, 21 is not going to love hand control too much, but Gohan's not like your stereotypical hand control deck. It's not taking too many cards out of the hand in one shot. It might pick like 1 or 2 cards out of the hand in a given turn, and it might not even do that until like turn 3 or 4. And at the same token, 21 can use a lot of Gohan's cards as energy. Not as much as if they were blue cards, but still a lot of the cards in 21 do have green costs. So that does work a bit in 21's favor. So I could see that matchup being very, very interesting depending on how it plays out. But also then if there's like a fair amount of aggro in the format, like if there are a lot of red representatives, then like, you know, 21's not going to have such a great time. And also too, like, I've always called Gohan an aggro green deck because it hits very hard very quickly and takes cards out of the hand while doing that. So that might also be a reason why it like could potentially pair up well in a 21. But again, I got to learn all these things about the format because I've just been unplugged being on vacation. With those two decks identified as definite meta contenders, I think the next color to jump to is probably yellow. Again, we've seen Majin Vegeta in 2 or 3 of these tournaments. We've seen Golden Frieza, probably the most topping yellow deck in these 3 tournaments, although I don't remember any Golden topping the first 2 weeks. There might have been 1 or 2 outliers there, but I don't really remember too much of it. And then as far as these 3 tournaments are concerned, we have 1 Trunks Vegeta. So I would say yellow seems to be the 3rd best color because you have green in the 1st place slot, right? Which is just insane to ever say that green's the best color in the game at any point because it's been so bad for so long. But green's the best color right now with Gohan basically holding down the fort. We've got 21 at the next most slots for representation in top cuts, even managing to win one of these events. And then we have yellow being represented by a few different decks. And then we have red and black definitely lagging behind, but not fully unrepresented, which I do very much appreciate. So I think as time goes on, like, the format is gonna continue to figure itself out. And actually, if we look at all 3 of these tournaments in particular, red is actually the least topping, with only 2 representatives of consisting of Pan in that first Tennessee regional. Nothing else for red in the remainder of these tournaments. However, I do remember some Pan topping the first 2 weeks, so there is that to speak for it. But yeah, I think there's definitely gonna be some more figuring out that the format has to do, where like perhaps maybe more bad matchups for Gohan will arise and start to kind of pluck away at that deck's representation of the format. Like, for example, again, this is only through the grapevine, but I've heard that SSG Trunks does pair decently well into Gohan because Petrification just completely shuts down your boss monster. Goku Gohan Solidarity is just wrecked by Petrification because it stops all of its attacking autos as well as its auto to burn you, because Petrification is one of the only cards in the game that actually does stop attacking autos. So that's pretty good. That's a pretty good interaction. Again, I'd have to see the matchup more so like played out, but that is what I've gathered from hearing my teammates talk about it and whatnot. So with that all in mind, talking about what the meta contenders are, again, I definitely say Gohan 21, and then like whatever your yellow deck of the week is, followed by black and red definitely lagging behind a bit. But I don't think they're too far out of the water. Speaking about black and red in particular, I don't think they're too far-fetched from the meta like green used to be. Now that we've kind of established like what the landscape of the meta is looking like, let's go ahead and take a look at some of these more interesting deck lists. All right, guys, so here we have the first place green Gohan list from the Madison, Wisconsin regional. First thing catches my eye, we have the Gogeta Battles Beginning Super Combo, followed by the Vegeta Preparing to Battle, which caused a loop of being able to pitch this Vegeta, picking up any Gogeta BR from your drop area, allowing you to use multiple super combos per game. This has been, I guess you could say, emergency ban, which happened while I was on vacation, so I didn't cover it in a video. But yeah, this combo is no longer going to be allowed. Not that I think that's going to like really diminish the power of Gohan all that much, because like just having to give up being able to reuse Gogeta super combos and say, oh man, now I got to play defending Father Paragus, like, that's not really all that much of a downside, right? So that's still going to be really good, and that's going to free up 4 slots in this 50 card list. There's a lot of really strong stuff you can fit now that you're not allowed to play Vegeta Preparing for Battle anymore. But going through this list here, we have the pretty standard stuff of like both the Time Chamber combos, your Krillin battle support. We have the Fated Rivals combo, which I don't see every Gohan list playing, but I do actually kind of like it, because in certain matchups, if let's say your opponent has something for your Gohan Goku father-son solidarity, you have the on-demand barrier removal that Goku Fated Rivals offers you. So for example, against yellow, if they have Mutaito, your 8-drop basically has no effect. So that's where you'd want something like Fated Rival to get that on-demand barrier removal. Also against black, like I was talking about against SSG Trunks, they have Petrification that totally shuts down your 8-drop. You get the immediate value of the Goku Fated Rival. So I do think it serves like somewhat of a solid purpose. Interesting SCR choice in this build, we have Cell Xeno. Obviously there's Goku Peace Resolution, which a lot of the decks are playing. That's the SCR that was kind of made for the deck. I've seen quite a few playing Cell Max as well, but now here we have Cell Xeno kind of going for that turn 5 win condition. Going down to the Z deck, super standard stuff. And the side deck, 2 Koits kind of side, followed by 1 in the main. Definitely probably pretty solid against 21 and other Floodgate heavy decks. And then we have Dorm Potential, just supplementing your Floodgates. Focus Breakthrough, which honestly in this format, I think you need like maybe 4 copies of this between your main and your side deck. That's just my personal opinion. Shin Noble Supremacy, with Gogeta and Sin no longer being viable threats, I do wonder the main thing this was in against. Although I guess it's pretty solid in the mirror match because it stops your opponent from attacking with father-son solidarity. But I think a lot of times this is not coming out till turn 4 anyway, depending on like matchup and who goes first or second. So I'm sure there's other stuff this might be good against. And then 2 copies of Gohan Latent Power Unleashed for your Unison removal. Now we have the first place list from the France regional. This was Android 21 from set 20. Now going through here, we have the 1 Majin Buu we're allowed to play. Kusu, such an insane card in this deck. I do very much like the 3 copies though. I know it seems like a little bit nitpicky, but a lot of successful lists last format are playing the full 4 copies. And you know, this is not a card you can combo for free like the 8-drop boss monster in this deck. It can get clunky as a 1-drop 5k combo in your hand. So I personally do like 3 copies very much. Going through here, we actually have 2 copies of Oob, which I forget if in this deck it's actually playable, doesn't? Oh yeah, no, this is the one that you can play as a 2-drop if your opponent has like a certain amount of Z energy. Yeah, this card is just an absolute tank in blue. I remember seeing a lot of Soul Striker lists playing it from the first 2 weeks in the format. We actually have 3 copies of Infernal Villainy Cells, so this seems to be a bit more of like a combo centric variant of the deck, followed up with 3 Sensu Beans. So I mean, it's still got all the same amount of Floodgates you'd normally play as a 21 deck, but it also just has a little bit more combo power, which is definitely nice offensively and defensively for kind of pushing for game. Going down to the Z deck, super standard with our ramp package. We have our Vegito, our 1 Beerus, and our 1 Cell Awakening of the Created. What's really interesting, I remember talking about this in the video a few weeks ago, there's no Goku Stronger Together in this Z deck, and I don't think you actually need it in this format. I can't think of a deck that like would consistently draw like 14 cards. That's like the sweet spot where you want to be activating a card like Stronger Together. If your opponent's only getting up to like 12 cards in hand, it's not worth it to like spend 2 energy and 2 Z energy just to make them pitch 2 cards. Like if you spend that energy on aggression, they'll pitch those 2 cards anyway, and you'll make a better board. So that's something to think about. Side deck here, we have our mandatory Deborah. Like, yeah, this card's super mandatory with Gohan in the format. You want to be able to supplement those cards that they're making you pitch, especially if your deck hates hand control. We have one more Kusu. We do have the one Mafuba, which is probably just a cheeky one of to deal with boss monsters. We have 3 copies of 21 Wavering Will, which we've talked about many times in the past. Really good in blue mirror matches, especially if they're playing cards by skills. 2 copies of Kamehameha Deflection. Great card in this deck where you splash green energy. Jiren for the anti, I guess, Chain Zeno and 17 Turning the Tide shenanigans. 2 Raditz Unisons for aggressive matchups where you get the double block. We have 1 max power for on-demand removal and 1 more copy of Bad Omen to burn our opponents for game. Going on to the next list we're looking at, we have the Shroom and Salsa build. Now, I'm not going to pretend to be an aficionado on this deck by any means, but it is interesting we're playing the older Shroom and Salsa leader, which again, like, draws you cards for comboing, so it will make really efficient Z energy and interrupt your opponent's drop area, which in certain matchups is going to be pretty important. So I do notice we're featuring some of the new Shroom and Salsa stuff. Like this is the Champak Toa that gives your leader or any of your battle cards double strike. It is tied to Spirit Boost, so let's see what unison we're playing here. We have no actual unison in the main board. Okay, so that means we're playing this card for its other effect, I guess. When this card's played, choose one of your opponent's battle cards, send it to the owner's warp. This card gets plus 5k for the turn. It is a swap into a Toa, the cost of 3, which we are playing in the main deck. So we have Demon God, Toa, Umbral Might. If I remember correctly, this card's like kind of insane, but it used to be hard to actually play out. So auto, when this card's played from your hand, draw 1 card, then your opponent may choose 2 of their battle cards and or cards in their hand and send them to their owner's warp. If your opponent sent 1 or fewer cards to the warp using the skill, choose one of their unisons with a cost or with 4 more markers on it and gain control of it. Okay, so this does seem like somewhat matchup dependent, because if your opponent doesn't have a unison in play, they can just send 0 cards to the warp, right? But if they do have a unison in play, then this thing just essentially tells your opponent like, hey, you better get rid of 2 cards, otherwise I'm taking your unison. Which again, in some matchups seems very, very good. It does seem like pretty vital to this deck, although I think this has been profiled out there somewhere on the web. I just didn't get a chance to look at it. So yeah, I'll have to get more explanation on what is going on here. But yeah, this deck is just super cool that Shroom and Salsa was able to top. And black actually has a lot more like solid utility in the Z deck, which makes making the Z energy a lot better. Like now you got a 20k Z leader, which is awesome. You've got Majin Buu Pure Destroyer, which is an insane card, 1 cost 25k attacker that also serves as removal or a blocker if you need it to. And then down on the side deck, very cool tech, Broly Omen of Evolution. Place a card in the owner's drop from your combo area, choose 1 battle card with combo cost of 0 in your opponent's combo area and place in the owner's drop. This can knock out super combos, prevent your opponent from making Z energy. Very, very cool stuff. And then the rest of it seems relatively standard. Shin, once again, more copies of smoke if you need to kill unisons or do other things that it does. Definitely seems solid. Last list we'll look at today, we have the SSG Trunks deck, which I think might be a low-key up-and-comer. But let's take a look at what this is playing. So we have a 54-card main deck. A lot of people with mill decks like this, which, I mean, this guy doesn't really mill himself, but he does draw a lot by drawing 2 and warping 1 on leader swing. And then you have cards like Gohan challenging a Demon God that will go ahead and warp cards for you when it's played. But yeah, besides that, we have the standard SSG Trunks lineup. We have, of course, the one thwarting we're allowed to play. We have the new evolution SSG Trunks Sealing Power, which is super solid. And we have, of course, our new unison support, Spring Kai of Time, releasing time power, as well as our Kai of Time imposing the Empire, which leads to a ton of draw power, as well as our ability to use our Spirit Boost effects. Our Z deck, once again, we're leaning heavily into Majin Buu Pure Destroyer, with our new Z leader, of course, being 20k, and also free on energy, as long as you do have that unison in play, which is super important once again. And then going down to the side deck here, Hunt of the Demon God, very, very cool. So some of you guys might not know what this card does. If your leader and energy are all the same color and your opponent has 4 or more energy, negate the counter attack of an extra card with the original energy cost of 1 that was activated without paying its energy cost. So for example, in the Gohan matchup, if they use Uneasing Awaken Rage for free, you can counter it and stop it outright, which is So insane. Very, very cool tech card. Some red decks tech King Vegeta Hidden Ambitions because it has a very similar effect. It basically negates free 1-cost extra card counterattacks. Can definitely win you games in the right scenario. And the rest of the side deck looks somewhat standard, except for maybe this Hat Check, Hatred Everlasting. I would love to know what this card was in here for. This is a pretty cool tech. But yeah, guys, that pretty much goes over what I want to go over in this video. We definitely have a much more defined meta at this point, and now I'm a little bit more caught up myself. So you guys have any comments? If you guys want to teach me anything about this format, if you guys want to fill me in on anything or leave any comments at all, definitely drop them down below. I really appreciate it, you guys sticking with me as always. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.